I would like to thank all of you for taking the time to spread the word about the disappearance of Maddi Kingsbury. Our search efforts have included people on foot, in vehicles, as well as by water and air.
Madeline is a hardworking and dedicated mother. Family is everything to her. She's grown into an impressive and beautiful young woman. Please help us find Madeline. The children need their mother.
My sister is kind and quirky and caring and my best friend.
Maddi Kingsbury, a young sorority girl from Winona State University, meets Adam Fravel, a young fraternity boy. They have 2 children. They were not married.
Maddi was last seen the morning of Friday, March 31st.
Maddi and Adam took the kids to daycare and dropped them off around 8 a.m.
Sorry we're late.
They got back to the house, and Adam said he saw Maddi go downstairs where her home office was to work. He left, and he didn't see her again.
I sent her this funny picture, and we were just kind of laughing back and forth about it. And that was at 8:15 that morning, and then I didn't hear anything else.
Maddi's family and friends tried to contact Maddi throughout the day on March 31st without success.
I sent a message to Adam, and I said, hey, none of us have heard from Madeline all day. He said, I'm concerned too because I haven't heard from her, and so I'm at my parents', with the kids. So I contacted a friend of Maddie's, her name's Katie. I said, I need you to go to her house and see if she's there.
Nobody was home, so I called the police. I started sobbing at that point. They said that there was no sign of her, there was no sign of a struggle.
We are very hopeful that we will find her. No stone is being left unturned.
Who is Spencer Sullivan?
Spencer Sullivan is a man that Madeline had started seeing.
It was an on and off type situation because there were some times where she would tell me, I don't know if this is going to work out because of Adam.
We believe Maddi's disappearance is involuntary, suspicious, and we are using every tool at our disposal to find her.
So I took to social media, TikTok mainly.
Hey TikTok, I'm posting an update. I am out in Fillmore County. We still haven't found my sister.
I mean, hundreds of thousands of people saw her TikToks.
Almost 1,900 people signed up today to come look for my sister.
And she was pleading with the public to help and pleading with everybody to take a look everywhere and anywhere for her sister. People just don't vanish.
My sister is still missing. Police and other law enforcement are obviously still searching. Everyone's frustrated, and we just can't figure out where she is. Maddie's still missing. I think it's day 68.
I would talk to her when I was out looking for her. I wanted to be the one to find her. I didn't want anyone else in my family to find her. If it's gonna be one of us, please let it be me.
This has gone on too long. We want to bring her home.
There's just something about Winona that keeps pulling you back.
Scott Sherman is the mayor of Winona, Minnesota, a small city on the banks of the Mississippi.
Living here in Winona is really cool.
So cool that TV and film star Winona Ryder is named for the town, as she told the world in this Super Bowl ad.
There's something about this place. Something that feels so me.
26-year-old Maddi Kingsbury also felt that certain something about Winona. So when Mayor Sherman heard that she had gone missing, he wanted to help.
I felt that Maddi was a daughter of Winona. She was a bright young woman, working through school, working a job in Rochester, and raising kids all at the same time. That's a lot. So I had respect for Maddi.
And Mayor Sherman thought he could help. Because as an avid bicyclist, he rides the woodsy paths around Winona all year long.
You know the back roads of this area.
I do.
And you went out yourself.
I did.
But as mayor, Sherman felt his first job was to support Maddi's distraught mother, Krista Neighbor, when she arrived at the Search Command Center.
She gave me a hug that I will never forget the rest of my life. It was a hug that showed fear, concern.
And so what message were you sending with that hug?
I'm here for you. We will do our damnedest to find her.
Maddi's family first began worrying about Maddi late in the afternoon of Friday, March 31st, 2023, when Krista realized she had not heard from her daughter for nearly the entire day.
Something in my gut just didn't feel right.
Mother's intuition.
Right.
Krista contacted Megan, Maddi's older sister, but Megan said she was not overly concerned.
I sent her a couple text messages anyway. Hey, Mom hasn't heard from you. Can you call her? Can you text her back? She's concerned. And she didn't reply to that.
At the time, Maddi was living with Adam Fravel, the father of their children. The two had met in college at Winona State University.
He was outgoing and seemed interested in getting to know us. And he seemed very, almost infatuated, I guess, with Maddi.
While still in college, Maddi and Adam learned they were expecting their first child and decided to settle in Winona.
He manned up. He manned up.
Teresa Cis Mejia is Adam's sister, and she says Adam quit school to support his new family.
He knew he was going to be a dad. He went and got a job, and he had that job up until COVID, and then he got laid off, while he let Maddi continue college so that she could graduate, and she did. She graduated, and he supported her.
After graduation, Maddi began working at the Mayo Clinic and became a clinical research coordinator. And Maddi's father, David Kingsbury, said she recently had begun studying for an advanced degree.
She was a graduate student in a master's program at the University of Minnesota, had just completed her first semester there and was doing very well.
Adam, who had studied computer science in college, began taking flying lessons with an eye toward getting his pilot's license.
When he was taking pilot lessons like that, he felt so accomplished. You know, it made him feel good, and I was so proud of him for doing it, for doing something for himself.
I enjoyed being around him, and I could tell that he really cared for Maddi.
On the evening of March 31st, Megan was hours away from Winona when she reached out to Adam, who said he was concerned.
He said, I got home today and she was gone.
Adam and the children were at his parents' home in Mabel, an hour south of Winona. That's when Megan messaged Maddi's close friend, Katie Kolka, who lived in Winona. My parents and I haven't been able to get in contact with Maddi all day. Katie responds, I'm on my way over there right now. The house was eerily silent, and it was at that point Katie called the Winona police.
And you want this missing persons report to be filed, but what did they tell you?
They told me that I wasn't able to report it because it hadn't been 24 hours yet.
I was pacing in my kitchen. I was getting really, really worried.
So was Maddi's father, who tried to reach her.
Where are you? What's going on?
The next morning, with Maddi now missing nearly 24 hours, the Kingsbury family filed a missing persons report. And then Adam went to Facebook asking for help. His post read in part, if anybody has seen Maddi, please contact the Winona PD, me, or any of her family members. Please help me find the mom to our 2 beautiful kids.
The police went to great lengths, I have to say, to try to find Maddi quickly, because they know that there's a ticking clock on these things.
And the investigation took off.
I mean, it's extraordinary what they did.
The news that Maddi was missing spread quickly through Winona and beyond. Haley Scott, one of Maddi's sorority sisters, wanted to help.
I reached out to our sorority. I reached out to news outlets. I was grasping at straws.
At the same time, detectives reached out to Adam Fravel. According to police reports, Adam told them how on the morning of March 31st, the couple dropped off their children at the daycare center. Investigators confirmed the drop-off after speaking to the daycare provider, who gave police this videotape. This video has never been seen by the public until now. It was one of the last times Maddi is seen on video before she vanished. Police say Adam told them he and Maddi returned home after the drop-off, and she went to her office in the basement to do a little work before heading to the Mayo Clinic.
I have taken a look at all the evidence that we have thus far in the Maddi Kingsbury case.
Mary Fulginiti, a former prosecutor and defense attorney, is a 48 Hours consultant. She says that in his police interview, Adam told detectives he left Maddi his car and borrowed her blue minivan to haul some boxes.
He proceeded to put some boxes in the van that he was going to move to his parents' house. Said he didn't see Maddi again. He drove to his parents' house along Highway 43.
Police say Adam told them he got as far as the township of Choice, Minnesota, when he realized he had made a mistake.
The boxes that he had in the van were ones that he actually wanted to put in storage, so he turned around and he went back to the home.
Police say Adam told investigators he arrived back at his Winona home around 11:30 a.m. and saw his car still in the driveway.
He said he had texted her a few times asking about dinner and whether or not she was going to pick up the kids. There was no response.
Police say Adam told them he'd assumed Maddi had carpooled to work, and when he did not hear from her, he went alone to do that pickup of the kids. Again, the video from the daycare appears to corroborate that part of Adam's story.
So he ultimately picked up the children around 4:20 or 4:30 from daycare and brought them to his parents' house in Mabel, Minnesota.
During a police interview, investigators noted that Adam had fresh scratches on his face the day after Maddi disappeared. Adam's sister says he told her the scratches came from a friend's dog. On Saturday, April 1st, police searched the Winona house where Adam lived with Maddi. And investigators reported they saw no overt signs of foul play.
But what was in the house was her purse, her jacket, her credit cards, but no Maddi.
2 days later, an anxious Megan rushed out of her shower and alerted her TikTok followers to what was going on.
TikTok, I need you to do your thing.
I wasn't thinking about the fact that I was in a towel.
I need your help. This is my sister, Maddi Kingsbury. She's missing.
The post eventually had over 500,000 views.
Help us find her. She's got 2 kids. She's my best friend. She's my little sister. We need to get her back. Please help us.
I mean, you're obviously in terror here, the look on your face, but you're reaching out for help and people wanted to help.
Yes.
So many people have asked to help look for Maddi Kingsbury that it allowed law enforcement to expand their search.
There's no guidebook on how to search for a missing loved one. and searching for her was easily one of the most traumatic things I've ever experienced in my life.
We're all hopeful she's alive.
But by the end of the weekend, there was no sign of Maddi. Day by day, Megan continued to post updates to TikTok.
It's Tuesday the 25th. Still no Madeline. Now next week is May. We're still in this hell. I feel like all of us, like every night we would look out, it's cold, it's dark. Is she like laying out there somewhere? Is she like trapped somewhere? And you don't know what to do.
Behind the scenes, though, investigators began taking a harder look at Adam, especially after Maddi's friends came forward with some disturbing stories.
Madeline called me shortly after an incident happened between her and Adam, where he had told her that if she wasn't careful, she was going to end up just like Gabby Petito.
The Gabby Petito case fixated the nation in the fall of 2021.
The search for missing 22-year-old Gabby Petito is now a multi-state effort.
After the young woman from Long Island was found dead,
human remains were discovered
1 month after she seemingly vanished from the face of the earth.
I told her, you need to get out, and you need to get out now. That's not an empty threat.
What do you think of Megan's TikTok posts? Chat now with the 48 Hours team on Facebook and X.
Years before Maddi vanished, her sister Megan says the on and off again relationship between Maddi and Adam seemed to be headed for a bad ending.
He just wasn't nice to her. He didn't act like he loved her. He didn't help take care of the kids. He didn't clean.
And honestly, did you reach a point where you advised your sister, perhaps it's time to move on in your life from him?
Many times.
Maddi's father, David, said it pained him to see how shabbily Adam treated Maddi.
I think she literally poured out a river of love for him, and she got nary a drop in return.
Maddi's stepmother, Kathy, says Maddi often called, saying Adam was of no help with the children.
And she'd be just sobbing miserably that Adam's not helping. I hate this.
But Maddi's family and friends say there was more than just tearful arguments. About 3 years before Maddi went missing, Haley says she witnessed Adam slap Maddi during a video call. Haley and Maddi were talking, Haley says, when Adam appeared in the background and began shouting at Maddi.
He yelled, "I don't understand why this house is such a mess." And she said, "I don't know, maybe you should help me." To which Adam turned and he slapped her with an open hand across the face.
And in September 2021, some 18 months before Maddi disappeared, she told Haley about Adam's dark fascination with the Gabby Petito story.
Adam had a infatuation, and I would call it an obsession, with the Gabby Petito case.
Haley says Maddi had told her that one night, after she and Adam watched a news special about the Petito murder, Adam's obsession turned threatening.
He had actually turned and grabbed her by the throat and pinned her down and told her that if she wasn't careful, that she would end up just like her.
Katie says she tried to get Maddi to do something.
And I begged her and begged her, please go to the hospital. document it yourself. Do whatever you need to do. You need to get this documented so you can get out of there safely with those kids.
But Katie says Maddi never reported anything to the police.
She was more scared that Adam was going to get arrested.
She wanted to protect him.
She was protecting him.
Maddi did, however, tell her father David and stepmother Kathy about the choking incident.
She was like horribly afraid. She'd been choked, and she was very, very scared and wanted help.
Kathy says she and David drove to Maddi's house and got her and the children out of there.
She came with us. We went to the house so she could get some of her things and some of the clothing for the kids and whatnot, and put the kids in the van and followed us back to our home in Farmington.
But Kathy says Maddi stayed in the Kingsbury house only 3 days before returning to Adam because he was upset that she'd left.
I did tell her at some point, he's going to kill you.
You said that to Matt.
Yeah.
You felt there was enough danger that you had to say to your own daughter, I think he may kill you. And how did she respond to that statement, or did she?
Honestly, I mean, she became a pro at minimizing things, and it came back to, well, he was joking. He told me he was joking, and she wanted to believe that.
When Maddi went missing, her friends and family reported those incidents to police. According to a search warrant, detectives interviewed Adam and asked if he and Maddi had ever had any physical altercations. He said, oh no. When detectives asked about those Gabby Petito comments, police say Adam admitted them, but claimed he was trying to make a joke. But according to a search warrant, investigators found an old screenshot Maddi had saved of some texts she'd exchanged with Adam. Maddi says, you know, I'm not really okay with or over the fact that you put your hand around my neck and pushed me down in front of the kids earlier. So don't. Not okay with it at all, but especially with them there. Adam replies, you'll adjust. Maddi says, the F I will. Detectives wanted to know everything about what Adam did the day Maddi went missing and began collecting surveillance videos from homes and businesses. Police say a blue minivan that looked like Maddi's was videotaped on Highway 43, the road Adam told police he'd taken that morning. But according to a search warrant, the timestamps do not match Adam's timeline. The cameras tracked the blue minivan until around noon, police say.
And then there's a 45-minute gap.
That gap occurs around Choice, Minnesota. Police say that is where Adam told them he realized he took the wrong boxes, turned the van around, and drove straight back to Winona. According to that warrant, there is a 45-minute window that Fravel could not be tracked.
I mean, where was he during those 45 minutes? I mean, that was the big question, right?
But with no direct evidence and no sign of Maddi, investigators did not arrest Adam, and he continued to live at his parents' home with the children. Meanwhile, Megan continued her updates on TikTok.
Madeline still has not been located, unfortunately, so we're still plugging along and looking for her.
As detectives continued to investigate, they uncovered a new lead, a romantic relationship Maddi had been having with another man, an Army veteran named Spencer Sullivan.
I'm Spencer Sullivan, and I was dating Maddi Kingsbury at the time of her disappearance.
And now, police were interested to know Spencer's whereabouts the day Maddi went missing.
What do you make of the Gabby Petito comment from Adam, which he claimed to police was a joke? Chat now with the 48 Hours team on Facebook and X.
In the spring of 2023, Maddi knew her relationship with Adam was falling apart, and she was brutally honest with her father.
She says, you know, Dad, I know that I'm in a bad relationship. I know my family knows it. I know my friends know it, and I'm embarrassed about it, but I don't know what to do about it.
But Maddi had joined Tinder, which is where she reconnected with Spencer, who she knew from college.
We were friends on Facebook, so I knew that she had kids. I wasn't sure what the status of the relationship was exactly with Adam Fravel.
As it turns out, Spencer also knew Adam from Winona State.
He was in the same fraternity as I was.
Tell me about the Adam you knew back then.
He and I didn't really talk all that much.
Maddi told Spencer that she and Adam had reached the point of no return. Maddi and Spencer began dating, but quietly.
We both kind of agreed to keep it a secret between us until she was on her own.
Mostly, the relationship was a secret from Adam. Maddi's family and girlfriends knew about it, and they told police about Spencer when Maddi went missing. That's when investigators called Spencer in for an interview.
They were just kind of asking me general questions about when we had started dating. Where were you at this point? What were you doing at this point?
What were you doing on March 31st, 2023?
That morning I was at work.
Spencer surrendered his phone while investigators checked out his alibi. As they looked into his story, they also learned from Maddi's friends and family that only 6 days before she disappeared, she finally had told Adam about Spencer.
She didn't want to lie, and it bubbled up inside of her, this guilt.
Is it true that Maddi told Adam about Spencer?
Yeah.
That's a pretty gutsy thing to do.
We wish she had not.
It all came pouring out, and Megan says Maddi told Adam she was leaving him and looking for an apartment where she would live with their children.
Did she tell you how Adam reacted to the news?
I think she said he cried and he was really hurt at the time.
I'm sure he was personally hurt and heartbroken. All of a sudden you find out she has feelings for somebody else and it's over.
Adam's sister Teresa, as well as his brother Ryan, say news of the breakup hurt them as well because Maddi was a cherished member of their extended family.
Maddi was a sister to all of us, and our hearts are broken. We lost a close family member.
They point out that although Adam and Maddi always had an on and off relationship, they stayed together for 7 years.
I was completely shocked when I learned that she was dating Spencer behind my brother's back.
Maddi's best friend Katie says tensions between Maddi and Adam were sky high after her revelation about Spencer. It was the day before she disappeared.
She called me crying, and she asked if she could come work at our house. She said that Adam was hovering over her while she was working and making comments about some other man raising his kids and, are you really going to leave me for another man? She felt very threatened.
Maddi left her house and went to Katie's before ending up at Spencer's home, also in Winona.
She came over to celebrate my birthday with me. She brought a couple donuts that we could split with each other. She had a gift for me. It was a little Lego set, a little Star Wars Lego set. I got a card from her. It was a Star Wars card.
That last time you saw her, person to person.
I remember she's standing on my front steps. She turned around and smiled at me and waved, and it was the last time I saw her.
Within days of his interview, police confirmed Spencer's alibi and returned his phone. Eventually, police say he was cleared. Maddi's friend Haley says Spencer was the best thing to happen to her in a long time.
Spencer showed her that she deserves so much more than Adam.
Spencer says he was devastated in the wake of Maddi's disappearance.
I thought to myself, stuff like this doesn't happen here. We were talking about her moving into her new place. She wanted me to come over and help her decorate, do stuff, and then the next day she's gone.
He says he couldn't stop thinking about the birthday card Maddi had given him.
I think I reread that card at least 100 times. that, like, all I could think was this can't, sorry.
4 days after Maddi vanished, her parents were given temporary custody of her children.
My niece and nephew are no longer in the custody of their father. You know, we appreciate the concern for them, but they're in good hands.
When Maddi's friend Lauren Du Bois thought about Maddi's children, she recalled a conversation she'd had with Maddi a month earlier, and she reported it to police.
She told me that she needed me to know that if anything were to happen to her or her children, that Adam did it. She would never leave her children for anything, under any circumstances.
10 days after Maddi disappeared, police had received a tip that Adam had been seen riding near his parents' home with a shovel in his family's utility vehicle. Police seized his vehicle and, according to a search warrant, cadaver dogs alerted to a scent in the vehicle and on the shovel.
You know, it's my understanding that they are trained and specifically trained to find human remains.
2 days later, Adam put out a statement through his attorneys. It read in part, "I have cooperated with law enforcement at every turn. I did not have anything to do with Maddi's disappearance. I want the mother of my 5-year-old and 2-year-old to be found and brought home safely. I want that more than anything." Maddi had been missing 35 days when Katie and others gathered to remember her.
She was the kindest, most beautiful soul. Even on the brightest days, it still feels dark and gloomy without her here.
David Kingsbury addressed the crowd inside a local church.
We know that Madeline is around here somewhere. She just didn't vanish. Someone knows something. Someone saw something. Make this your battle cry. Where's Madeline? Where is she? Make it loud and don't stop until she's found.
Go behind the scenes with the 48 Hours Post-Mortem podcast.
For Megan Kingsbury, June 7th, 2023, started out like every other day since Maddi disappeared.
Hey, TikTok. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Maddie's still missing. Please continue to spread the word about my sister Madeline.
But hours later,
we begin the hour with breaking news out of southeastern Minnesota.
68 days after Maddi disappeared, a sheriff's deputy found human remains along this lonely country road.
And while it hadn't been certified by the medical examiner, they were fairly certain that it was my daughter.
Was on the floor and like screamed, crying. You know, what do you say when somebody tells you something like that? There's nothing that you can say.
For Maddi's best friend Katie, the news was shattering. Her reaction captured on her video doorbell camera. The very next day, Maddi's friends heard the news from Winona's police chief.
Law enforcement has confirmed the remains are those of Madeline Kingsbury.
You can't ever prepare yourself for one of your children to die, much less be found somewhere outside, found as she was.
She was wrapped in a gray fitted bed sheet that had black duct tape around the ends. And there was a towel wrapped around her head.
Adam Fravel was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The gray bed sheet wrapped around Maddi, according to the criminal complaint, seemed to match a set found in Maddi's home. And the isolated road where Maddi's remains were found, according to that criminal complaint, had been maintained by the Fravel family at one point. This area is also close to the township of Choice, where police believe there are 45 minutes unaccounted for in Adam's timeline.
This area here, in this culvert, is where Maddi's body was found. Someone left a little angel here to mark the spot.
Maddi's autopsy listed her cause of death as homicidal violence, nothing more. And in October 2023, Adam was indicted on additional first-degree murder charges. Adam's possible motive for murder: in a warrant, investigators allege Adam was in distress due to his financial dependence on Maddi and was upset about the end of their relationship. Investigators also learned that Maddi had a death benefit of $170,000 but had not listed a beneficiary.
She was his meal ticket. She was the one who provided for them.
According to a search warrant, when police entered the couple's house, they noticed that surveillance cameras inside the home had been removed. And former prosecutor Mary Fulginiti says it's the way they appeared to have been taken down that caught detectives' attention.
They found that the surveillance cameras that he had installed had been ripped out, that they were no longer there. So all of those are indicators of, he's up to something in consciousness of guilt.
He had those down weeks before they were in the process of moving.
Adam's sister and brother say at one point, before Maddi and Adam broke up, the couple was planning to move together to Adam's parents' home.
We want people to know that there are two sides to the story.
Take, for instance, those cadaver dogs alerting to the utility vehicle and shovel. Adam's family says that's because on the previous weekend, their dad used that shovel to move a dead raccoon.
That he used the shovel to pick it up. Every time we would try to clarify anything to the investigators, we were just treated with that like we're just delusional. I believe Adam 150% that he is innocent. He would never harm Maddi, the mother to his children, He'd never do such a thing.
Adam's defense team has asked a judge to suppress Adam's police interview because they claim he wasn't read his Miranda rights. It's the interview where he admitted making comments about Gabby Petito, but said he was only joking. In preliminary hearings, his lawyers also say there is not enough evidence to warrant the first-degree murder charge. Adam's siblings insist authorities should take a closer look at Spencer Sullivan.
We're trying to expand the investigators' eyes that something else could easily have happened.
What do you think of that?
I mean, they're trying to protect Adam. They kind of need to come to terms with the fact that, in my personal opinion, they got the right person.
There's a presumption of innocence in our legal system, of course, that everybody's entitled to, but there's also the court of common sense. And in the court of common sense, all roads lead to Adam Fravel.
The Kingsbury family is speaking out now in hopes of saving someone else.
That's the reason why we're here, and that's the reason why we're talking about this, because we don't want it to happen to anybody else.
This is emotionally very powerful right now for you. You don't blame yourself for this, do you?
I think we all blame ourselves to some degree. Because when I would talk to her, I didn't push. I wanted her to be able to say things when she was ready to say things.
He had her hooks in her, and the kids make it really difficult.
For Maddi's father, whatever the jury decides, there is a larger truth that haunts him.
I'll always be the father of a murdered girl.
Spencer Sullivan told us he too feels haunted by a conversation he and Maddi had weeks before she vanished.
She told me that she was in love with me. Fortunately, I was too chick to say it back, but...
Does that bother you?
Every day. I saw a future with Maddi, and it felt like somebody just ripped the next 60 years out of my life.
For Megan, who is so close with her little sister, she still can't imagine a future without Maddi.
I feel like even just saying that we're sisters doesn't describe being the closeness that we had. We were confidants for each other.
How do you want Maddi to be remembered?
Somebody that mattered. I mean, I think everything we've seen and heard from people really affirm that. She mattered to many, many people. All of her friends said, she's my best friend. She was everybody's best friend.
A mysterious illness turns fatal, followed by a surprising toxicology report.
The medical examiner found tetrahydrozoline in Lynn Hernan's system.
How much does her caregiver know?
I told her it was the eye drops. I didn't give her anything.
48 Hours, Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Welcome to Post-mortem. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Green, and today we are talking about Maddi Kingsbury, 26-year-old mother of two who disappeared on March 31st, 2023, after dropping her kids off at daycare. About a week after her disappearance, about 2,000 people turned out to search for Maddi, covering a large stretch of southeastern Minnesota, and her sister, Megan, took to TikTok for help. So with me to discuss their reporting on Maddi Kingsbury's case are correspondent Peter Van Sant and producer Jordan Kinsey. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Anne-Marie.
Hey, Anne-Marie. Good to be with you again.
Once again, this is a fascinating case. If you haven't watched or listened to the episode, The Disappearance of Maddi Kingsbury, then go do that now. It's the episode just below this one in your podcast feed. To start, though, Jordan, we've had a few cases in Minnesota this season. How did you learn about this case?
Yes. So how I learned about the case was that I was covering another trial in Minnesota, and a court employee who I became really close with mentioned to me about this case, and knowing that the person missing was someone she went to college with. And of course, that blew my mind in that moment. And she did say that I also attended college with Maddi's ex-boyfriend and father for two kids, and that we think he might have some type of involvement.
Wow. So you knew about the story before there was national coverage.
Yeah. Day one, it just happened in that moment in the courtroom, just on break, and there's friends already texting, trying to figure out what's going on. So yeah, I knew sort of before it hit the headlines. And that's when we reached out to the planning team to find out if we want to really invest in trying to cover this case.
And then how do you go about doing that, though? How do you go about building those connections? Because this is a really emotional, sensitive time for everyone involved.
It is. And it can be a challenge, right? Because people are going through the emotions at that moment. But I think for me, what really worked out was that I had already been in Minnesota court employee. She connected me with some of the college friends who I just met with over dinner, and we stayed in contact. And then from there, they were able to connect me to additional friends and family.
The other thing about Jordan, for the audience listening to this, he learned to speak Minnesotan, which was really important.
You don't say.
And Minnesota nice, and Jordan is Minnesota nice, and he can really connect with people. And so to have him there at the very beginning was just crucial for us. And in putting together this successful hour.
So, Peter, to give people this backdrop, this town in particular seems like a prime example of Minnesota nice. It seems like a sweet town.
It is a beautiful, beautiful town on the banks of the Mississippi River. It is clear water that flows by, and the bluffs in the area where Winona is situated. The locals talk about their geology with pride, and the town is something out of a Hollywood movie set. The famous actress Winona Ryder is from Winona, and it has some sense of celebrity. But everyone seems to know everybody there. And when someone goes missing, as Maddi did, the entire community mobilized.
Finding Maddi went beyond the work of investigators, and it's all because of Maddi's sister, Megan. She started posting on TikTok, and people tuned in.
Absolutely. Megan, who's an absolute sweetheart and loves her sister as deeply as anyone can, she went on TikTok because she had watched dozens of videos from people who were in similar situations that she was in, a missing loved one. And in one of her first posts, she was so panicked and anxious to tell people an update that she appears on camera, which you'll see in the show, fresh out of the shower, just wearing a towel. She's a remarkably genuine person, and she was desperate for any kind of tip that could help find Maddi. And it was truly heartbreaking for her. She posted nearly every day for 68 days until her sister's remains were found. And one of her posts had 500,000 views. And as a result, the community mobilized. And you got this situation, as you mentioned earlier, Anne-Marie, a couple of thousand people turned out to search. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like this. And it was all through Megan and TikTok.
So was this also therapeutic for Megan?
Absolutely. I've done this now for 20 years on 48 Hours. I still cannot imagine what these families go through. The loss and the fear and knowing she's out there somewhere. And it was cold. And is she alive? Is she being held somewhere? Is she dead? And Megan became the face of that for us. And it's very powerful in this story.
So people, I mean, who knows, all over the world were transfixed by this story. But even closer to home, I mean, you spoke to the mayor, and it almost seemed like he was personally offended that anything like this could happen in his town.
He was. Scott Sherman is his name, an incredible human being. He's a mountain biker. And so as soon as he heard about this, he got on his mountain bike and went for mile after mile in those hills out there looking for her. And he had set up a command center there in downtown at the government complex. And what was really an incredible moment is when Maddi's mother walks into this room, he said, and says, "Who are you?" And he says, "I'm the mayor." She comes up and gives him this bear hug he said he'll never forget. And she wouldn't let go. And he got emotional and he was hugging her back. These two total strangers. And he says that he was communicating that he will do anything he can to try to find her because she's a daughter of the community. In other words, they were holding each other without speaking, and it was very powerful. He also shared with us that at one of the vigils for Maddi, they showed a video of Maddi singing "You Are My Sunshine." And he said that he sings that same song to his daughter every night before bed. And so every night he was thinking about Maddi as he would sing that song.
So, Peter, you also spoke with former prosecutor and defense attorney Mary Fujiniti, who is a consultant for 48 Hours. And she said, with regards to the police investigating missing persons cases, that they know there is a ticking clock on these things. Can we talk a little bit more about how crucial it is to gain some traction in those first few hours of an investigation?
It is so crucial when there's a missing person, particularly when they suspect foul play. In case after case that I have covered, police say that the first 12 hours are critical, sometimes life or death critical.
Maddi's friends are frantic. They're trying to get a hold of her. They're calling. They're not getting a response. And eventually they go to the police. They want to file a missing persons report. Let me ask you this. Is it a myth that you have to wait 48 hours? Like, that's what they were told by police when they tried to say she was missing.
This happens all the time. These are really intelligent people. They knew of a history of alleged abuse in this relationship. and they go to cops and say, we have got a problem here. She's disappeared. None of us can get a hold of her. And they say, well, it hasn't been 24 hours yet. I hear that all the time in cases. Usually it is 48 hours because they think, well, maybe they had a fight. She was just emotional. She's gone off to be on her own for a time. She'll be back.
When you're close with someone, you know when their movements are out of the ordinary. So Maddi's friends, they text Adam and say to him, we're really concerned. But his response is not appreciation.
In fact, this is what he said. Why are you doing this, right? She hasn't even been gone 24 hours.
So I was able to connect with Maddi's best friend, Katie Kolka, and she told us that there was a text exchange between Adam and her husband, which she shared with police. And so I just want to read that text exchange. Adam said, I talked to the police. Who or what prompted you guys to go check at the house? I'm so confused. She hasn't been gone for a day yet, so I'm not freaking out, but everyone else is. Then Adam responded again. So Katie called the police. He then said she was leaving for Farmington in the morning. Katie's husband responded, yes, she did. Weird that no one could get a hold of her. Adam responded, well, wow, that's a little out of bounds of Katie. It hasn't even been 24 hours, and I saw her this morning. And Katie's husband responded with, not really. When no one has heard from her most of the day, apparently no one was able to reach you either, too. So at least you've heard from her. You can't blame people for being worried, man. And then Adam said, nobody tried to reach me until 7 p.m., which was Megan. So IDK, what you mean by that? And then Adam said, I get being worried, but no one asked me anything. So it's like WTF, laugh out loud.
Laugh out loud.
Yeah, and I think that in that interaction right there is what sent Katie, in a tailspin. That's what got her really concerned about Adam.
You interviewed Haley Scott, one of Maddi's sorority sisters, who shared that Adam had a fascination with Gabby Petito's murder. For those who might not be familiar with that case, Gabby was killed by her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, while the couple was on a cross-country road trip.
With this case in particular, the judge released 60 plus search warrants. So all these search warrants were unsealed, and it detailed. Adam told investigators he was infatuated with Gabby Petito and that he did tell Maddi if she didn't listen up, that she would end up like Gabby Petito.
And this statement was also detailed in the criminal complaint.
So he admitted to making that statement, but claimed it was only a joke. And, he also told investigators that there had never been any physical violence in their relationship. And also during the search, Adam released a statement through his attorney, which read in part, I have cooperated with law enforcement at every turn. I did not have anything to do with Maddi's disappearance.
So this is kind of interesting. Adam's defense team says that he wasn't read his Miranda rights for one of the police interviews, specifically his second interview. For those who might not know what those are, you should know that for your own sake. Can you explain the Miranda rights and what's the defense suggesting? Because I presume that this means that he was read his Miranda rights at some point, at least initially, but I guess you got to do it each time?
Well, anytime you begin a new interview, you have to read rights. And we've all seen this on police TV shows, right? And I know a lot of the audience listening right now can lip sync this along with me. But the Miranda rights require police to inform a suspect that they have the right to remain silent, that what they say can be used against them in court, that they have a right to a lawyer, and that the suspect must indicate that they understand what's been said to them by the police officer. And the defense attorney said what may end up being a crucial moment for jurors, his fascination with the Gabby Petito case, he had not been read his rights. So they want that thrown out of any trial that's coming up. We can't say this enough. He's an innocent man, Adam Fravel, until proven guilty. And his defense team and his brother and sister have told us we have answers for every issue that you've heard that we've talked about this far and will talk about. And they say they are 150% confident in his innocence.
As we heard in the hour, there were allegations made by Haley Scott that there were physical altercations between Maddi and Adam, that this relationship was frayed, it was falling apart. Adam had denied this. Maddi's family said that she never filed any police reports alleging violence. And you really get from the family that they're conflicted about whether or not they should have pushed her to do something like that. According to a search warrant and criminal complaint, police discovered a screenshot on Maddi's phone of a text exchange between Maddi and Adam dated September 21st, 2021, and it details an alleged choking incident that occurred. Jordan, can you read those text messages to us?
Absolutely. So Maddi says to Adam, "You know, I'm not really okay with or over the fact that you put your hand around my neck and pushed me down in front of the kids earlier, so don't. Not okay with it at all, but especially with them there." Adam said, "You'll adjust." Maddi responds, "The F I will." Then Maddi says again, "You do that again without asking me, you can go somewhere else." Adam responded, "You got it, mother." And then Maddi said, "Don't patronize me. That crossed the line."
You see that she seems to stand up for herself in these text messages, but her friends, her family, they encourage her to leave Adam. She does not leave. I want to play a clip from the hour, Peter, with you speaking to Maddi's father, David.
I did tell her at some point, he's going to kill you.
You said that to Matt.
Yeah.
You felt there was enough danger that you had to say to your own daughter, "I think he may kill you." And how did she respond to that statement, or did she?
Honestly, I mean, she became a pro at minimizing things, and it came back to, well, he was joking. He told me he was joking, and she wanted to believe that.
You spoke to her dad. This is a woman who was well loved by her family. They would have done anything to help her out, to help her get out of that relationship if she wanted to. Can you talk to me a little bit about how the dad was feeling? I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, David Kingsbury is a brilliant man and a loving father. And he did the best he could over and over again, including to have her move in with him for a brief time. No one imagines that this will actually end up in murder. They just can't believe that's not on their radar whatsoever. And she kept going back to him, which is not uncommon. And that's what really drove David crazy. Is he said that she told him too, the fact that she had these kids, it was just impossible to leave Adam. They were this partnership, and it just ended up in tragedy. They tried, Anne-Marie, they tried.
Yeah. As of now, Adam Fravel's trial is expected to start in the fall of 2024. Can we talk about the evidence that we might see at trial, Jordan?
So based off of what we have in the search warrants, Adam gave his timeline of what happened that day that Maddi disappeared. Now, when investigators reviewed surveillance footage, they noticed that there was a discrepancy in what Adam mentioned with the times where he was at, and they weren't matching. You know, another observation, when police interviewed Adam in his first interview, they noticed scratches along his face and neck. And so we spoke to Adam's sister. She said Adam told her that he got those scratches from a friend's dog.
Wait, I'm hearing a little noise in the background. What's going on down there?
Yeah, there's some wind happening. There's a storm that's hitting Florida at the moment, so that's why you hear some rumbling going on. Now, another interesting point is that Adam's family has a UTV, a utility terrain vehicle. And so the cadaver dogs had alerted to a scent actually on that UTV and the shovel. And also mentioned in the search warrants that cadaver dogs are trained to pick up on any human remains. Now, Adam's family mentioned that they have a reason for that. They claim that the weekend prior, their father had used a shovel to move a dead raccoon.
I heard that in the hour, and I thought there's a difference between the smell of a body, which is what these dogs are trained to pick up on, and a wild animal. But that's their response. Jordan, what other evidence is there?
The area where Maddi's body was found was previously maintained by Adam's family. They admit that they did know the area very well.
This came from a tip, by the way, that someone had seen Adam Fravel on this all-terrain vehicle driving out in that area. And then they take the sniffer dogs out there and they alert on that vehicle. And prosecutors, this is all circumstantial, are obviously going to be suggesting the reason why they alerted on that vehicle was that Maddi's body was back there and that this was an area that Adam Fravel was familiar with and where her body was found. Again, we can't say it strong enough. The family says they are going to be presenting answers to all of this. Remember, the defense attorneys did not speak with us in this.
Now, I know the prosecution doesn't have to present a motive, but it certainly helps when you're arguing a case. And there's a motive that was floated, which was that Adam was financially dependent on her. And if she was to leave, it would pull the rug out from under him financially.
Well, she did everything. And what her friends and family say is that she financially supported the family with her job at the Mayo Clinic. Friends claim that Adam did not help with the raising of the children. And that she was very much on her own. Also, this was not much of a loving relationship. It was on again, off again. Mm-hmm. And as we know, she sought another relationship and she had made the decision that she was going to leave him.
In the very beginning of the hour, when you speak to his sister, she says something to the effect of, he did the right thing. He dropped out of school and got a job when she became pregnant. I got the sense that she felt like there was an unfairness to this. He made these sacrifices for her. And now this relationship could be ending and she could be leaving.
His family will tell you that was all to support the family, all to support her so she could get her degree, and that he was being generous with this. He did have a job for a time, but when COVID hit, he lost his job. And so they depended completely on her salary. But on her side of the ledger, people say that he just was not much of a provider and not much of a responsible adult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sort of another really heartbreaking part of this story of the hour is Spencer, Maddi's new love. At the time of the murder, they were in a relationship, and there's talk about whether she was going to be leaving Adam to start a life with Spencer. He certainly says that he was starting to think about a life with her, and now all of that potential, all of that hope is lost.
This is an incredibly moving part of this story, a tragic part. Spencer is a military veteran. He was a very soft-spoken man, big-hearted. He was just devastated by the loss of the woman that he said he wanted to spend the next 60 years of his life with. And keep in mind, after she disappeared, when you have what appears to be a love triangle, there can be a motive for murder. Adam's family says, even today, you have to look more closely at Spencer. Now, authorities have said he is no longer a suspect, but he was generous enough to talk to us. He talked about the sadness. And by the way, the day I interviewed Spencer, it was his birthday. And exactly 1 year earlier, he'd spent that birthday with Maddi. And he has a card that he reads over and over again. Spencer got very emotional with me when he said the last thing Maddi said to him was, love you. And he just wishes he had said, I love you back. And he didn't. And every day he thinks about that. He's just a devastated man hoping for justice in this case.
Maddi's father said in the court of common sense, all roads lead to Adam Fravel. What was it like talking to this clearly heartbroken family?
Boy, Maddi's father said, I will always be the father of a murdered girl. And that pain, you could see it, you could hear it, and it will echo in his life for the rest of his days. We keep going back to Adam Fravel is innocent until proven guilty, and that's where we stand. We need to hear where all the evidence has been presented. It is intriguing, though, after they found Maddi's body, the charges were elevated against Adam Fravel from second-degree murder to first-degree murder. Why is that? We don't know yet, but to have the charge elevated to first-degree murder, they have something new, right? Maddi's family, they just so desperately want not only justice for their daughter, but to prevent this kind of domestic violence from taking someone else. Right now is a Facebook page called Finding Maddi Kingsbury. It has 28,000 followers, and it's a good source to see what's happening in this case.
You know, you bring up something. I thought there is going to be one family out there who's going to hear this story and pick up the phone and say, no, I insist you leave.
Absolutely.
They will save lives for sure. I want to thank you, Peter and Jordan, once again for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Thank you. Thanks, Anne-Marie. I appreciate it.
So listen, join us next Tuesday for another post-mortem and watch 48 Hours on Saturdays, 10, 9 Central on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. And if you are liking the show, please rate and review 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts and follow 48 Hours wherever you get your podcasts. You can also listen ad-free on the Amazon Music and Wondery app or with a 48 Hours Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts.